Hey there, welcome to the Project Distilled YouTube channel where we talk about all things project management. In this video, we are going to examine the capabilities of ChatGPT and Google Bard as it relates to project budgeting. I tried this a while ago with ChatGPT. It's been updated a few times since then. I didn't have great results. I've learned since that it takes some finesse to ask the right questions to get the kind of answers that we need. We're going to go head to head with these two tools and see which one does a better job with helping us to develop our project budgets. Let's jump in. So I have devised 10 tests, and I've got a score sheet here that you can see. We'll fill it in as time goes on. But the first test is to just ask it a broad question, give it a few parameters about the project, and see if it will estimate for us an overall project budget. So it's important to note that this project is all about moving our users at our company. And for this scenario, we've got 4,000 employees from the Microsoft Office suite to the Google Workplace suite. That's what the project's about. We're going to need consulting and we're going to need licensing. Let's see how ChatGPT did. So it estimated and actually gave us some numbers, which is good. It estimated us at $6 per license. That's the basic license fee. And it estimated for some consulting. I think it might be a little bit low at these figures. That's just based on my experience of having done this at a couple of different companies. But it gave it a try. It's got some reasons and some justifications for its figures. So I actually went and looked at the Google's current pricing for its workspace. You can see them here. It is exactly the same. So we're good on that. It actually produced good data for the licensing, though I don't know any enterprise of 4,000 people that's going to use a basic license. In fact, we'd probably be in the enterprise space, which it doesn't give pricing for. Let's see how Google Bard did. Looking at Bard's results, we can see that it didn't really break down the figures. It's more giving us a general guideline. But look at that, kind of at the bottom of the first paragraph. It does throw out a generalized number saying that a project of this scope would take about $100,000 to do. Holy moly, Google, this is your own product. You know it's more complicated than that to roll out your tool to a company of 4,000 people. Additionally, you can even get the basic licensing, $400,000. So I don't know where Bard got these numbers, but here's our tally sheet to see which tool does the best. This round goes to ChatGPT. Next up, I wanted to see how smart these engines were at telling us how much consulting should be. So I asked it, how much should the IT consulting be for this project? It has the parameters from before. Let's see how ChatGPT does. So it gave us a general guideline. And if you look there, it says between about $100 and $250 an hour. In my experience, that's about right for this type of consulting. If you get into really specialized consulting, the cost goes up, but this is relatively generalized. And so I think that that's a fair range of numbers. So you can see Bard came up with about the same kind of answer, some wishy-washy stuff, but a little tighter range on the consulting. It caps out a little bit lower. I think that's fine. I think that it may not really realize how expensive consulting is these days. So in my opinion, the nod goes to ChatGPT as our winner for this round. Let's go to the third round. Now this is a kind of a trivial thing, but I just wanted to see what each of these engines came up with. I asked them to estimate the cost for t-shirts. My assumption is that whenever you roll out a program like this, you're going to want to create, you can call them Google Guides, whatever it is, but people who are embedded in the organization who are your allies, because IT can't be everywhere when you roll out a tool like this. You're going to need to leverage people who are in the business. This is to give them a little treat. It's a t-shirt, and also to help identify them on the day of launch and that for that week. If they wear that t-shirt, people know where to go to find some help. So I figured 200 t-shirts for this. What is the cost of getting those t-shirts? So ChatGPT is saying between $5 and $15, depending on the quality of the t-shirt, up to about $30 per t-shirt. That seems about right. $5 seems really low to me. I don't know what kind of a t-shirt you'd be getting for that. 15 could probably do it, but I think it's probably 15 to 30 is a good range. So at least it kind of got those numbers in there. Let's see how Bard did. All right, so I wish I lived in Google Bard's world. It is telling me that the cost per t-shirt is $2 to $3. That is ridiculous. I don't know what's happening there. If they're advocating for forced labor, maybe this artificial intelligence revolution is already taking place and it's going to rule the humans, and it thinks it can make them for that. I don't know, but that's not realistic. For this scenario, ChatGPT wins again. Let's move on. Our next challenge is all about the cost of labor for doing this. So this is trying to estimate the project team cost. It's an internal cost. The company is not going to be cutting a check for it, but it is indeed a cost because the company could be doing something else with that labor had it not chosen to do this project. So let's see what ChatGPT says. So it gives us a range of about $75 is really kind of what it said per employee. Depending on where you are, that could be fair. Where most of my work took place in the Silicon Valley, that's really low because you're looking for an all-in, fully loaded cost of not just salary, but all of the employee taxes and the benefit costs that go with that. You can talk to your HR partner. They can usually get you a figure that's good for that. But 75 seems a little bit low. Let's see what Bard says. So Bard gave us a range between $50 and $100. Still has the same kind of advisory, hey, based on location and skill sets and things like that. The cost could be different, but at least it accounts for something more than $75. So for this round, for this exercise, I'm giving it to Google Bard. Next up, I ask the tools to generate a cost for just the licensing. How much do the license fees cost me? And ChatGPT actually already gave me that estimate. It used a $6 figure for those. Let's see it when I ask it again what it does. So you can see here it's now given us 3 different pricing tiers, which correlate to the pricing tiers of Google Workspace. But it does have that caveat that this data goes back to 2021, which is a few years out. Pricing changes all the time. But as we saw earlier, the pricing is actually still accurate today. So good job, ChatGPT, for calling out the possible options. Now let's go to Google Bard. I expect a lot from Bard because Bard is a Google product. And in my opinion, it should know its product better than anyone. Let's see how it does. So Google Bard just gave us some estimates, about $10 for a standard license, $20 for a better license. It doesn't match its pricing scheme. Not sure what Google's thinking. Maybe it is more intelligent because it's adding in other fees for that, but just straight up licensing, they publish their licensing costs for full transparency. I thought this would be a slam dunk for Google Bard. However, got to give it to ChatGPT. Our next challenge that I gave it is to build in or estimate the cost of a 3-month delay in the start of a project. We know that delays can be costly. Let's see what the engines say based on the parameters that it has received so far. We can see that ChatGPT is estimating a 10 to 30% increase if the project delays for 3 months. That's fair, maybe 10% a month, 5% a month, something like that for a delay. It does all come down to the details. Let's see how Bard does. So for once, Bard is actually being more conservative than ChatGPT, and it is saying that the delay cost could be 10 to 20% per month. So if we take that over 3 months, that's 30 to 90% of a cost increase for the delay. Now, if you've already signed a contract with the vendor with dates, that could actually really blow out the cost of your project based on that delay. So I think that's a fair estimate also. I'm actually going to award the best answer to both of these tools because it really does just depend on the details. I think they both did a pretty good job of coming up with those. The next scenario is the addition of 1,000 new employees. These are unexpected employees. The idea is the company just did an acquisition, and we're going to bring those new employees in under the Google Workspace project as well. So let's see how ChatGPT does. So ChatGPT, you can see in the answer, starts to show for an extra 1,000 people, you got to think about licensing and additional support and those types of costs. So it breaks out at least kind of where that is coming from. Doesn't really give us a strong number for what that extra 1,000 would cost us. Let's see if Bard does any better. So Bard didn't really understand the assignment. What Bard has done here, it's saying $100,000 per employee. Well, that's not right, and that's not, Bard is not trying to answer my question by saying it's $100,000. It misunderstood the question, and it's answering what is the cost of an acquisition period across all factors for an employee, and it's giving us a $100,000 figure for that. So that may be fine, that may be right, but that's not the question that we asked. So ChatGPT wins this round. Now I'm going to see if it can just simply do some simple addition. I'm asking it for, or I'm telling it that the cost of licensing has gone up by $150,000 for this project. What's the new project cost? Let's see what ChatGPT does. Okay, so you can see that ChatGPT took our original number and added 150,000, and it correctly did that arithmetic, and there it is. There's the figure for adding $150,000 to the project. Let's see how Bard does. Okay, Bard, you misunderstood the assignment, and actually I think it's just a factor of it not remembering some of the previous data that we had given it. So it just said, well, so if you have a project that's $1 million, you add 150,000 to it, it's now $1,150,000. That's great, but that has no bearing on the actual costs that we've been talking about. This round goes to ChatGPT. All right, number 9, we're going to be talking about capitalized projects. Hopefully you're familiar with the difference between capitalized projects and expense-based projects. Capitalized projects, the costs for those stick around on the balance sheet of the company. Those that are expensed, once the money is spent, it's spent, and that's part of an operating cost that goes out the door. We're asking the engines what parts of this project can be capitalized. ChatGPT came back and just kind of gave us some definitions for capitalization, and the definitions are right. Capitalized projects have to have some kind of a lasting component to them, like a building. If you do an addition to a building, that could be capitalized. If you build software from scratch, that can be capitalized. In my opinion, there's not a thing about this project that can be capitalized. It doesn't say that, but it gives us definitions that could help us reach that conclusion. Let's see how Bard does. So Bard does the same thing. It kind of gave us general definitions around what can be capitalized and what cannot. So neither really answered the question, but neither was really wrong either. So I'm going to give it to both of these as winners this round. That brings us to our final round. This round is all about accruals. So if you've worked with projects in a company, especially a public-facing company, you'll know that there's an accounting matching principle that says that money spent in a month needs to be accounted for in that month. That means that if you've got consultants who are working for you and they work in the month of March, but they don't bill you until the middle of April, that's a problem based on that matching principle. You're supposed to be accounting for those costs in March. So the accountants do something called accruals, and that's trying to do that, bring those expenses forward. So I ask, what is the monthly accrual for each project? Let's see how ChatGPT did. So ChatGPT, it just kind of gave us an illustration. It picked a random project cost of $500,000, said the project ran for 12 months. You would take that $500,000 and you would divide it by 12. That gives us about $41,000 each month to accrue. A lot of assumptions built into that. That assumes that there is an even spending each month across the project. That's not typically the case, but at least it illustrated the principle for us. Let's see how Bard did. So Bard also lays out the general principles for accruals. but I've got an issue with the math, and maybe this is where, since I'm not an accounting person, I don't get it, but it doesn't make sense to me. It used a $1 million project example, said that the cost of a project each month is $100,000, but then it said the accrual would be $50,000. I don't understand why it would half the accrual. So based on my non-accounting brain, but my experience from doing this for years and years and years, I'm giving this one to ChatGPT. So you can see that on this test, ChatGPT overwhelmingly gave us better answers. So the question is, based on my first experience talking about budgeting and using ChatGPT from a couple months ago, has anything changed? Has anything gotten better? Would I trust it? The answer is yes. If you ask it the right questions, it absolutely does tend to give you better answers. And I'm talking about ChatGPT here. Bard still threw out some really questionable stuff. Again, you need to apply your own personal logic and common sense. It needs to have that logic and common sense test applied to it. But ChatGPT gave us some really good starting places for all of our questions, or most of our questions, I should say. And so as a project assistant, the winner for helping you with budgets, ChatGPT. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you found it informative. If so, please like and subscribe. Thank you so much.